Hello and welcome to a special episode of Women Inspired.
Incredible fun there, Liz. This week we are celebrating International Women's Day, so we've decided to look at all the women that inspire us.
Starting with our all-female crew.
Okay, International Women's Day is a global day that celebrates social, economic, cultural and political achievements of women.
International Women's Day has been celebrated for over a century, starting in 1911 in Austria, Denmark, Germany and Switzerland.
Each year, International Women's Day picks a theme, and this year it is #EmbraceEquity. Equity isn't just a nice to have, it's a must have. A focus on gender equity needs to be part of every society's DNA, and it's critical to understand the difference between equity and equality.
The aim of the International Women's Day 2023 #EmbraceEquity campaign theme is to get the world talking about equal opportunities aren't enough. People start from different places, so true inclusion and belonging require equitable action.
Now, a lot of people reflect on International Women's Day by talking about the women that inspire them, so it seems only fitting that we should do the same. Liz, is there someone that you'd say would inspire you?
I mean, industry-wise, you've got to go with someone like Kate Adie, a true icon in the journalism industry. But if I'm talking like music, fun, it's got to be Beyonce, Taylor Swift, the queens of the music industry.
Definitely, yeah. I'd say the same, probably Marie Colvin for me. So we've both gone war correspondents there, very in tune. Also, my mum, all the women in my life, my granny, my nan, even my sister if I'm feeling in a nice mood.
Oh yeah, shout out to my mum and my nan.
And also all the women that sort of work on this show and that we've had as guests on this show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This show is all about women
Girl
and
bosses.
They're all amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So now we've found out about each other's female inspirations, let's take a look at who inspires other members of our team.
The first one that comes to my mind is Ida B. Wells, who was a black woman in America who was campaigning against slavery and emancipation and all of that sort of thing. And she started up her own newspaper, and one of my first year essays was about her, and I bought her biography and I read through all of it. It was fantastic. I even had some of the parts of her work in it, and it was really good to read, and I really enjoyed it.
My female inspiration is Alex Scott for what she's done for women's football.
My female inspirations are the women in my life, such as my mum, my sister and my aunt, because they're all very strong women and I think they've shaped me into the person I am today.
My female inspiration is my mum, because she's had 5 kids, and on top of that she's just done a lot of cool things, to be honest.
My female inspiration is Clarissa Ward, and I just love how she gives a voice to the voiceless.
My female inspiration is my nan, because she is the strongest woman I know and she inspires me to be more like her and be a better person.
Joined by Hayley Wood from the University of Salford Feminism Society. Thank you for joining us. Can you start by telling us what the Feminist Society do?
So as a feminist society, we encourage people to support female role models and generally female issues and raise awareness for them and try and help in some way, such as currently every March we're asking people to come and bring period products with them when they come to events to try and raise quite a lot, and then we can go and donate them to women's shelters.
And what exactly does it mean to be a feminist?
I think being a feminist is to support women, encourage them, show them that they can reach their potential and support them to get that far.
So why is International Women's Day so important?
It's so important because you need to raise awareness for how different our world would be if we didn't have these inspiring women, and how much they've changed this world and how much still needs to be done, because not many women have the same examples we have today, and we need more.
And do you think that there's sort of being a change in narrative around sort of like this idea of feminists being quite angry and loud and destroying things like the suffragettes potentially? Do you think that's sort of changing?
I think it is. I think people are starting to see like more positive views towards feminism now, because previously it was more about, I think it was just females, and we want more females. We want everyone to be empowered, and we want to be able to reach that equality to everyone and make sure everyone has the same equal opportunities wherever they are.
What made you decide to get involved with like a feminist society, or like just deciding that you were a feminist yourself?
I think everyone really should be a feminist because we've got to support other people. But it's a great opportunity to come and help and talk to other people, also share the same views and help other people like throughout the year. It's brilliant.
And we're looking at sort of female inspirations. So what would you say your female inspirations are?
Oh, my female inspiration. Following you for the music, Lizzo, I feel like it's a great inspiration. So confident and encouraging other people to follow their dreams.
Definitely.
Yeah. Cities across the world are marking International Women's Day with many events, and Manchester is no different. Hannah Vaness went along to a walk for women that took place in the city centre.
International Women's Day has been celebrated from as early on as 1908, when 15,000 women marched through the streets of New York City, demanding better pay, shorter hours and voting rights. In 1914, it was agreed that International Women's Day would be marked annually on March 8th. From the early 2000s onwards, attention to International Women's Day was created with the help of social media.
Today is Saturday the 4th of March and people are walking in Manchester City Centre, Manchester Cathedral to St Peter's Square for International Women's Day.
This event, among many others, is bringing people together in support of women's achievements. The month of March is recognised as Women's National History Month that highlights the contributions of women to events in history and society as we know it today. Hundreds of supporters of all kinds line the streets of Manchester. Women from organisations such as the Nigerian Women's Group, Women for Iran and many others came armed with personalised banners and musical instruments. Speeches and music were heard to spur on the walkers on their route for an hour and a half. Many participants were with family and friends and the women that inspire them in their life.
Why are you here today? Well, to celebrate womanhood, but also I think as feminists we've come an awfully long way, but we've still got things that we need to be fighting for. You know, there's still issues on the table that for me are very much up for debate, and I think it's important that we keep the recognition of that out in the public eye.
I just think it's important to carry on recognising the struggle of women like globally, not just in the UK. There's still disparity in pay. In other countries, worse disparity in rights as well. And I wanted to bring my 8-year-old as well.
The walk, led by Lord Mayor of Manchester, Donna Ludford, has been postponed for the past 2 years. Now it is back in full force, along with many other exciting events in Manchester this March.
When thinking about International Women's Day and female inspirations, it's hard not to think of the suffragettes and the role they played in getting women the vote. Poppy Smart joins us here in the studio to tell us more about the suffrage movement. So Poppy, why don't you start off with sort of what are the suffragettes?
Amazing, thanks Abby and Liz. So I think it's important when we're discussing this to kind of differentiate between the two main groups that were active in the campaign for women's suffrage, which is a term used to describe the right to vote. So these two groups were called the suffragists, who campaigned using peaceful methods such as lobbying, and then the suffragettes, who were a group determined to win the right for vote by any means. So they had more militant campaigning, which sometimes included violent acts to attract members of the public's attention. So in 1866, the first mass women's suffrage petition was sent to the House of Commons. The many suffrage societies that were set up in 1866 used petitions and meetings to try to persuade MPs to support them. The Women's Social and Political Union was set up in Manchester in 1903 and was led by Emmeline Pankhurst, who is still honoured in Manchester, with a bronze statue in St Peter's Square and the Pankhurst Centre, which is just outside the city centre. So in 1905, suffragettes first used militant tactics, which led to 76 women being arrested after trying to storm the Houses of Parliament in 1907. The suffragettes didn't give up and became more and more militant, which led to 300 of them being beaten and arrested in 1910 after marching to the Houses of Parliament in response to the failure of Conciliation Bill. And this became known as Black Friday, which is what we know it as now. And again, suffragette tactics became more violent, with many buildings being burnt and windows smashed over the next few years. So in 1913, Emily Wilding Davidson, who was a member of Women's Social and Political Union, was killed after she stepped out in front of the King's Horse at Epsom, Derby. Thousands attended her funeral. And then later, in 1914, the Women's Social and Political Union started working with the government. So they held demonstrations to encourage women to help the war effort. And finally, over 10 years later, in 1928, women won the right to vote.
Thank you for that, Poppy. In this episode, we are celebrating inspiring women, and our next story is truly inspiring. Charlotte Jennings was 11 when she was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia and is now part of KidsCam.
Our very own Grace Clark took part in a fundraising attempt that defied gravity.
Rising 170 feet over Salford Quays, just seconds from free falling, with nothing but a glorified elastic band tied to my ankles.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Why am I putting myself through this? Well, it's for people like Charlotte.
When I was 11, I was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, which is a really rare and aggressive form of leukemia in children.
Charlotte underwent 3 rounds of chemotherapy and a bone marrow transplant. She is now cancer-free, but there were serious side effects to her treatment.
I was wheelchair dependent for about 5 years after, and then even now, 8 years, nearly 9 years down the line in January, I'm still using crutches or a walking stick, or I wake up in the night with a lot of pain. My list of medications is about as long as my arm. I have issues with like internal organs, like my kidneys leak, my ovaries died, so I don't have like a normal period anymore. I can't have kids in the future, and a lot of my medication now makes my head a bit fuzzy, so I get short-term memory issues, processing speed issues, and things like that, which is why I joined KidsCam.
In 2017, Charlotte became an ambassador for KidsCan, a Salford-based charity researching better treatments for children's cancer. In the UK, 20% of children don't survive cancer because of limited treatment options. Of those that do, 60% will suffer life-limiting side effects from the same treatment that saved their lives. KidsCan is working to find new treatments that only target cancerous cells. Their work relies largely on donations, and this weekend they took fundraising to new heights.
We didn't want to go with your average bake sale. We wanted to do something a little bit more extreme, and what's more extreme than a bungee jump? COVID hit the charity pretty hard, as well as the cost of living at the moment, but this is a really great way to get involved because more people are willing to sponsor to see you do crazy things like this.
The research they're doing could be life-saving, as Charlotte's story is just one of thousands like it.
On the ward, I had a lot of friends who, like Gracie, who was also a patient ambassador. She had a brain tumour, and sadly she's passed away. I have buried a lot of my friends. I've spoken at 2 funerals before I was 16. So anybody working to get a cure was amazing.
So, for a very worthy cause, I made the big leap.
As we've seen in previous episodes, industries are doing more to minimise inequality for women. Sport is no different, with women's rugby taking steps to empower young girls and encourage them to get involved.
Emma White has more.
Women's rugby has been gaining a higher following because of the Rugby World Cup and more money coming into the sport. According to figures from Sport England, in the last 5 years, the number of women playing rugby has increased from 25,000 to 40,000, with an aim for that number to reach 100,000 in the next 5 years. But more than half of those already in the sport say homophobic and sexist jokes deter many girls from playing. Feminine product brand Always say nearly 1 in 3 girls drop out of sports during puberty. 25% of those say they don't feel encouraged to keep playing. Bonnie Fleming is one of the girls that plays for Eccles Rugby Club, and she spoke to me about how more needs to be done to encourage females to stay in sports.
If girls were encouraged to do sport and were encouraged to sort of even be strong rather than just who's got the prettiest bra on in the changing rooms, then it would really encourage younger generations, especially year 10, year 11, when you're starting to become like more of a woman.
I also spoke to the head coach of Broughton Valkyrie Ladies, Sam Randall. He explained his plans for getting rugby into schools and colleges so girls are exposed to the sport from a younger age and are more likely to stick with it.
What we're going to do is we're going to build the foundation of the adults teams. So once we get a solid men's team, which we've got, then we'll get a solid ladies team. Then we'll start looking at the colts and the youngers, so we've got a bit more of a pathway to the adults team, which obviously that's what we all want. So once we get them foundations in, I think that'll be better for the kids coming down, because they're thinking they're going to look, and most of the mums and the dads will be playing here, like my kids hopefully will be playing here, and they'll go, I want to do what daddy's doing, or I want to do what mummy's doing.
The efforts local rugby clubs are going to influence women to stay in rugby are already paying off. Jay Fordham used to play rugby in school, and although she didn't carry on playing, she decided to return to the sport for the love of it.
Really important, like for fitness as well. So.
With lots of people dedicated to bringing more women into rugby, the future of the sport seems bright.
Now, you can find out more about women in sport on our next episode, where we'll be able to hear from Blow the Whistle's very own Evie Jessup. Now, Liz, did you celebrate International Women's Day in any way? Did you get up to anything?
I mean, I was at work on International Women's Day, but I was definitely on social media having a look at all the posts that people are putting out about their families and their grandparents or their grandmas and nanans and aunties. Yeah. There's a lot of things going on social media.
Yeah, I really noticed that. Loads and loads of people were putting stuff on social media, and I think that's sort of quite a normal thing to do at the moment, sort of with activism.
Yeah, I think that's the place where everyone celebrates it together across the world, and it's a great way of keeping people together in conversation. Did you do anything to celebrate this year?
I had a girly night in with one of my friends. We made pasta and, you know, just had a good old chinwag and gossip with everything that was going on at the moment. But I think it's something that maybe we need to look at maybe more in schools and stuff like that. I know Germany, they have like a bank holiday on International Women's Day.
It's one of the first countries that
yes, as we have learned, yes, that's probably why maybe we need to implement that sort of in the UK. But I was just quite interested to see all the companies on social media doing everything and sort of seeing what they were up to and what sort of things they were putting out, and all these amazing women that have done incredible things for the country and the world being celebrated.
I did see something online that was about from people that are Buddhist, and they put on everyone should celebrate their femininity, because we all have an essence of femininity, and that's what International Women's Day should be. Everybody should be a part of that and in touch with that side, and you know, men should be celebrating International Women's Day as well, because everyone can be a feminist.
Absolutely. This is what we've learned from speaking to Hayley earlier. Like, it isn't just about women. This show obviously celebrates women, but men should be getting involved in those conversations. And I think we are starting to. I'm having lots of conversation with boys sort of my age and my friends and in my family as well about why it's so important to look at sort of the difficulties women are still facing today. You know, we celebrate things, and as we've sort of heard since the suffragettes, we've moved on so much, but there's still so much that needs to happen, you know, and we're sort of exploring those themes in the show as well, definitely.
And to make real change, we need men to be a part of that. It needs to be an equal thing that everyone together, whether it's for women's rights or LGBT rights, you know, everyone needs to be a part of that big movement to make change and make sure that, you know, we are embracing everyone's rights and everyone's right to free speech and to vote, simply down to that. Like, the suffragettes truly inspire me, and they always have. I remember reading a book when I was a kid, which was a diary. It was called My Story Books.
Wait, I think I read those in my history class.
So I used to love these books, and I was obsessed, and the suffragette one was really amazing.
I wrote a book report on it, yes.
Yeah.
Yep, I know, it's mad sort of how those things as children definitely inspire us later on. Like, I definitely consider myself sort of very activist and sort of vocal about women's rights and things like that. And, you know, that's amazing how sort of as part of this show, as you can see, sort of we are a completely all-female team. And that is everything that we have time for today.
So let's flash back to Gallery Cam one more time just to see what
everyone else has got going on. And thank you so much for joining us on this special episode of Women In. That's all we have time for.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, see you in 2 weeks' time for Women in Sport.
Goodbye.
Bye.